There we go. Shavua Tov and uh, Yom Revi v'Shabbos. Okay. We're starting today, Mitzvah Hashem, a new Torah in Likutey Moharan after this amazing saga of Torah Chaf Beis. Took us, I don't know, like I think that's 13. I think 13 installments, which means it took us about over 3 months, something like that. And so tonight, with B'rat Hashem, we are starting Torah Chaf Gimel, B'rat Hashem. So the B'nosan Ras Meromam Hu Elohim Bekadmaisa Uvatraisa. Exalted is Hashem in before and after. The Tzvi v'Yisraelan v'Yisraevan u'Masalan Oraisa, that wanted and wanted us and gave us the Torah. We have concluded Baruch Hashem learning Sefer Tzniusa. Now we will lift our hands Kadam Elokana before Hashem. Yamadlana Lemina, that was set on our right, Laschi v'Ligmor, to begin and to finish Razin Iloim. This is supernal mysteries, Hagnuzim Besava de Beatuna, that are embedded in the stories that the Gemara tells us that occurred between a meeting between Saba de Beatuna, this is the elders of Athens, and Rabbi Yeshua Meprachia, the Hakima de Yodoi, like he was the wisest of all the Tanoim in his generation, and he was the one that was sent to Rome to intercede for the Jewish people. There are many stories about things that happened to him while he was in Rome. He met with, the highest echelon of the Roman Empire. In fact, there's one, eye-browsing story, as it were, that the daughter of Caesar saw him. I mean, everybody was amazed on how, at his wisdom, but he was not good-looking man in the least. So the daughter of the Caesar asked him, how is it possible that such divine wisdom is instilled and contained, by such a bad-looking man, such an ugly man? So he answered her. He says, "In what kind of vessels, what kind of containers does your father store wine?" So she said, earthenware, ceramics. So he said, shouldn't Caesar's wine be stored in golden containers? So Caesar's daughter said, you're right. So she gave an order that the royal wine will be stored instead of earthenware, will be stored in golden vessels. Well, pretty quickly afterwards, all the wine soured. So the Caesar asked his daughter, why did you do that? She said, well, Rabbi Yeshua told me to do that. So he called him and says, why did you tell her to do that? So he told him the whole story of what happened. But anyhow, the thing that went on before, the preamblum to these mysteries, this really incredible give and take between Salvador Tuna and Rabbi Yeshua, actually went down as follows. It's written in, I think, what is it? Maseches Bechoros. So Bechoros deals with Bechorim, elders, firstborn. So while they're at it, the Gemara deals with various animals and how long is their period of gestation. In other words, the pregnancy of that particular species, how long it takes. We're talking about elephants, we're talking about dogs, and whatever it is. The last one, just before this particular, our particular story, is that we're talking about how long is the gestation of a snake. Now this has a lot to do with the Torahs that we're going to learn. Obviously, it's not in vain that the animal that was the impetus of all the story was a snake. Specifically, Torah Chav Gimel, that particular subject. So, it so happened Rabbi Yeshua was in Rome, and the Caesar asked him, how long is the pregnancy of a snake? So he told him 7 years. Caesar was amazed. What do you mean 7 years? We see that that it's not. Now, so he says we see that it's shorter. Now Chachamim did not use any laboratories or scientific discoveries, to pinpoint how reality, what reality is and how it handles. Chazal are totally going by psukim. That's it. We have famously, it has to do with this Torah that the Gemara says, Yaakov Avinu lo mes. Yaakov Avinu never died. So the Gemara asks, what do you mean he never died? So they cried they mourned him for nothing. I mean, they embalmed him for nothing, for no reason. They buried him. They cried for him for no. They buried him for no reason. So the answer, the Gemara answers very calmly. We have a pasuk. So it says, what about what they saw? So it says, Nidme lahem. They thought that he died. They imagined that he died. Yaakov Avinu lo mes. We'll see what is the meaning according to this Torah as we go along, because as we say, this particular Torah, it's mostly about Yaakov Avinu. So, so Caesar says, but we see that the snake gives birth to less than 7 years. So I'm sure Muhammad says no. It was already impregnated before you noticed it. In other words, the process started way before you noticed it. So that's I'm not sure what was the test that they did, and found out that it was the way that Yeshua said. So Caesar told him, if you're so wise, I want to see that you will go and meet the 70 elders, sages of Athens, and bring him to me. So Rabbi Yeshua said, okay, what I need from you is to give me a large boat, a really large boat, that has 70 rooms, and in each of the 70 rooms there should be room for 70 people. And he traveled, and he came to the place of where those sages lived. Now, those sages lived in an enclave that it was not possible to get in or get out. And in fact, nobody from the outside was allowed to know even where the opening was. And even once a person was able to get to the opening, there was a guard whose job was to kill anybody who tried to get in, and a guard inside that whose job was to kill anybody who actually did get in. So the story starts when Yeshua got there. His first mission was to find what is the opening, where's the gate. So he went, to that particular place that, I don't know, was a city or was a village or whatever it was. And he went to a butcher. I know those days the butcher, especially the Goyish butchers, but was just, he butchered animals and sold the meat. So Rabbi Yeshua gave him money, and he says, I want to buy a head for 1 zuz, 1 coin. So the butcher said, no problem. Took the money and gave him a head of some kind of an animal. So Yeshua said, no, that's not what I meant. I gave you this zuz for your head. I bought your head. So that person was at total loss. Apparently the way the judgment system, justice system as it were, was working at that time, if he bought it, it's his. That's the first inkling about the nature of the world that Rabbi Yeshua was going to enter. It's a world where you can sell a person's head for a zuz. In other words, every person has a price. You can have their heads if you pay enough money. It is that culture that breeds this kind of point of view that, if it would have been, a sane culture, the butcher would have said, what the heck are you talking about? You can't buy my head for a zuz. But the butcher belonged to a culture where it was at least possible, it was feasible to buy someone's head for a zuz. So Yeshua told him, listen, if you want to keep your head, you had better tell me where the opening is to get into the enclave of the 70 sages of Athens. So, you know, the butcher had no choice, and he showed him. Don't remember exactly how. Don't remember how he showed him what kind of trickery he had to do, to show him where the opening was without letting other people know that he showed him the opening, because obviously you're not allowed to do that. And whoever showed the opening himself has to be killed. Whatever it is, a person's life was not considered, that, we visited other periods in history where it was like that. Anyhow, so there's a whole story of how he tricked the guards to get in. He took I'm sorry, the guard from outside was supposed to kill anybody who went, who came out of the enclave, and the guard inside was supposed to kill anybody who came into the enclave. But Bishur took his shoes and turned them around and made like steps, as if somebody walked. He walked like through the gate, but wearing his shoes backwards. So it seemed like somebody came out. Somebody walked out. So that means that the guard on the outside failed to kill somebody that came out. So he was killed by the pirate being. Then he did the opposite for the inside. And therefore they executed the guard from within, and he was able to come in. So Rabbi Yeshua is entering the enclave of Sabbath Be'atuna, and they are greatly shocked and agitated that he was able, to get in. So he told them, that he came there. That Caesar sent him to see who is wiser. If he's wiser than them, or they are wiser than he is. Right? They didn't want him to ask them any questions. So they said that they're going to ask him questions. I said, okay. And the deal was, if he wins them, or he answers all their questions, that they come with him, or whatever, that they have to come to him for a Suda, whatever it is, what remember the details. But anyhow, so the first question that they asked him is the beginning of this Torah. Unlike most of Rabbeinu's Torahs, this Torah does not start with a pasuk. It does not start with a verse. Usually, the way it was when we learned Savadis Niusa, so Rabbeinu will start with a quote, and then he would go through the entire process of the Torah and show how that, when that process was fully explained, Rabbeinu would show how that process is embedded and hidden in that particular quote that he brought, and then afterwards came a pasuk that he started the Torah with. Over here, it's done differently. I mean, we start already with the quote of the stories of the questions that Sabbath asked, the Be'atuna asked Rabbi Yeshua, which usually in other Torahs will come further on in the Torah when we already know the entire process, and then we say, okay, this is how the process is alluded to in that story. So let's start with the story. And the story is, to put it mildly, all these stories are, completely opaque. I mean, there's no it's not possible, to read the stories of the conversations that you had with them without realizing that we're actually discussing something completely different. So the Maharsha talks about it, and he says that there is no pshat to these stories. When you read them, they don't make any linear sense. But they allude to great and supernal secrets of the Torah. And the Vilna Gaon also writes about these particular exchanges, and he says that these exchanges encompass within them the entire confrontation between the Ashkof of Yaakov and the Ashkof of Esau. Everything is included in these conversations. So, the first question that they asked him, they said to him like this. This is Lashon Rabbeinu, Savad Ve'atuna, Torchav Gimel, Lashon Rabbeinu Zichron Livracha. This is the Rebbe gave this story to Reb Nosson, written down on paper. So every single Likutey Moharan Bechlal is a super precise sefer. But when it says where he actually gave Reb Nosson the Torahs in writing, you can be medactic in it like in a mikra, like in Tanakh. And it says as follows: Eimelon mile dechdive. Tell us words of falsehood. That's what I asked him. Mile dechdive, Rashi says, dvar kazav, just a lie. So he answered them. Amalahu, havilan kedenaisa. We had a female mule. V'yalda, it gave birth. V'avitalia lapiska, Rashi says there was a promissory note tied around, the neck of the fowl. On that note, it was written, promissory note, it's written that you owe my father's household 100,000 zuzim. Omrele, well, since when can a female mule can give birth? Omrelu, so he says, Hey Ninu mile dechdive. These are words of falsehood. So they ask him a second question. Milcha kisaria, salt that decayed, that stinks. This. With what do you salt it? Because we know that when you salt meat, especially in the olden days, the way that meat was preserved was with salt. You preserve things with salt. So they said, okay, what happens if the salt, corrupts and rots? How do you salt it? With what do you salt it to prevent it from rotting? So he told them, "Besilusa dechadenaisa," with the what do you call this thing that the female comes together with the vlad. Let me just find out what it is. Hold on. Hold on. This is Avrami. Can you unmute yourself? How do you say "shilia" in English? Unmute yourself.
Placenta.
Okay, there you go. Okay, so they say with the placenta of a female mule, So they asked him, since when does a mule have a placenta? So he answered, no, milcha misaria. And since when does salt spoil? How does spoil, degrade, rot? No such thing. So Rashi says, hey nino mila dechdive, these are words of falsehood. Because of silusa is shilya, is placenta. Well, now the Rebbe brings the pasuk tzvisa tzedek edosecha emuna. You've ordered justice and edosecha ve'emuna me'oid, and your testimonies and emuna me'oid, to a great degree. And Rabbeinu says, that there is panim, the kedusha, there is face of kedusha, the face of kedusha, she'en anpin Moharan, these are glowing faces, b'fchinas chaim, that constitute life. Moshe Kosev ba'or pnei melech chaim. In the light of the face of the melech, there's life. So here we're tied together, light, face, and life. And anybody who's zeicha to the supernal or uponim will learn this or uponim in Torah Chafalef, will learn or uponim, in other Torahs, Torah Vav, uponim Elyono who's zeicha l'pchinas chaim, he's zeicha to life. This is panim. This is also pchinas simcha. Rabbeinu said that is true simcha. Moshe Kosuv sovas smachotes panecha. I'm satiated with gladness by seeing your face, by being zocher to be exposed to your face. Uksiv, and now we're tying on v'chtichi ruach Yaakov. Zeh pchinas simcha. Yaakov Avinu heard that Yosef is still alive. Yaakov Avinu was in mourning for 22 years since Yosef left. And when he heard this, Yosef is alive, so his spirit, he became alive. He became alive again, which means this is so. Life is simcha is chaim. Anybody is zeicha to or chaim, to the or uponim is zeicha to chaim, is zeicha to simcha. On the other hand, yesh panim l'sitra achra. There is a tzad of tumah, which is the opposite. It's the monkey see, monkey do of the kedusha. Shem anpin chashochin. This is darkened faces. Marash chayra. This is marash chayra. This is depression. Avodas elilim. This is idol worshipping. Moshe kosuv lo yelecha elohim acherim al pona. You will not have false gods upon my face. Saying that Avadul Salam, then Rabbeinu, Rabbeinu continues before we go into what Rabbeinu says about this. We need to understand what is this question. What is the question that they asked him? What does it mean that they asked him, tell us a lie? So he tells them a lie, and then they say, hey, that's a lie. What is this? Even children don't play like that. They ask him to tell them a lie, and then he tells them a lie, and they say, hey, that's not a lie. So he says, here, that's a lie. That's not true. So he says, well, that's a lie. What is going on here? What they asked him was not, tell us something. Tells a words of something which is not true. So Rabbeinu says that the truth is one, and the lie, and lies are infinite. because you can say anything, you know, when you're telling a lie, you can say anything. You can say that this particular cup, you can say that this is actually made of crystal. That'll be one lie. Or you can say that this is one of a kind, this is handmade. It will be another lie. You can say that whatever is in here is Kahlua with cream, and it's not. Or you can say that, well, you can say anything. But what they asked him was not, to say an untruth. Their world is filled with untruths. What they asked him is to tell them the very root of the lie. The root of the lie means that it's a lie that shades reality to such an extent that you have no way of telling that it's a lie. It becomes the truth. It becomes the truth in such a pervasive way that even though you know that it's a lie, it is so fundamental. It is so fundamental that you live within that lie without having the ability to extricate yourself. Rabbeinu says that this is Chochmah de Sitra Achra. We're talking about here about the Keser of Sitra Achra. The very same way that Keser itself includes everything, all the spheres that emanate from that. But at the same time, it is totally transcendental. It's so totally pervasive that there's no way to see it. I remember many years ago, I gave some. I was called to speak in army camps in the very beginning of the Tshuva movement, and people were interested because it was nobody felt threatened by it yet. Uri Zohar started this new movement, and people were curious. So they invited me to speak, at the end of, they have a school for, that was called, the Army College, where people from colonel and up, they go to the military college to learn, strategies and tactics and whatever it is. This is for higher officers. That was the end of the course. So that was a course that was about, 200 or 300 people. They were all, higher, ranking officers in the army. And I spoke there. So amongst the things that I told them that really rocked them, because they came to me and spoke to me afterwards, they were very interested. And I told them, it's like, I don't know if they asked or I mentioned it, why can't you see Hashem? You claim, you believe, you're going to Yiddishkeit. So, have you ever seen Hashem? Why can't you see Hashem? So I gave him a mashal. I said, have you ever gone out, have you ever put on a pair of really expensive sunglasses, what they call shades. The expensive one are called shades. They don't call sunglasses anymore. I don't know, Ray-Bans or something like that. Like really expensive ones. The pilots wear them. Other people, and they're so comfortable. It says when you wear them, you forget that you're actually wearing sunglasses. Why? You only figure out that you're wearing sunglasses when you go inside, an office or something like this, and you wonder how come everything is so dark. And then yeah, I'm wearing sunglasses. You take it off, everything becomes lighter. So because when you're looking at everything through green sunglasses, what happens is that everything is tinted green. You're wearing sunglasses, green sunglasses. So everything you're looking at is tinted green. Now, when everything is tinted green, your mind already filters out. You know that not everything is green. So your mind already filters out the green out of what you see. And you identify and you recognize different colors with the green taken out of the equation because everything's green. The only way that you can realize that everything that you're seeing is actually tinted green is when you look out of the sides of the sunglasses and you see, the light that comes from the sides is white. All right, okay, now, and then you can compare, the sides, which is white, and the front of you, which is green. Yeah, that's enachinami. It's tinted green. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everything. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the entire reality. Therefore, you don't see him anymore. Your mind filters him out because there is no sides to look out for. There is no place where Hashem does not exist. That's why you can't see him at all. Well, they were very impressed by that. I go, oh, we hear that. All right. That makes sense. This kind of pervasive view, this green of the sunglasses, is a bechina of Keser. Within that bechina, there's no green anymore because everything is green. The same thing is here. There is a Keser of the Tumah. Rabbeinu says, in the Tumah, this is a woman that's such a Tumadik woman that no matter where you look, you will see her. And in fact, that particular taiva of women, as pervasive as it is, and it doesn't matter what age you are, is still something which, sometimes exists and sometimes is not. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. And in fact, that taiva leads to the great sheker. It's a sheker by itself, and it leads to a great sheker. And that great sheker, that arich anpin, the tumah, that pervasive tumah that you cannot look out, there's no white from the side to see out of it, even though it's sheker, is greed. The lust for money. Now, everybody has to deal with parnasa. it's the biggest test in our lives. The Rebbe says in Likutey Moharan, he says, why when we say in the bracha of Mechaya Mesim, there is Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, because Baruch Hu sustains all the living, with kindness, with mercy, Mechaya Mesim Rachamin Rabim, and revives the dead with great compassion. Why are they joined at the hip like that? Parnasa with Tchias HaMesim. What's the connection between the two? Rebbe Nosson says, because there's nothing more pervasive in the life of a person than the need to sustain themselves, to eat. Refuah once in a while. The Taiva you do, the Taiva Snashim, every once in a while. Eating parnasa all the time, every single day. And that is the doorway that leads to taivas betza, to taivas mammon, the taiva of money, the greed. Now the thing that typifies greed is that greed has no bounds. A wealthy person can never ever be wealthy enough. They say that, Vladimir Putin, the ruler of Russia, his personal worth is $200 billion or something like that. And you stop to think about it and you say, why? What does he do with this money? What would he ever do with this money? He is, for all intents and purposes, the king of Russia. That's all he is. That's all he wants to be. What can you do? How are you going to use this money? So they say that he built himself a palace on the Black Sea where nobody can get into. It's like the enclave of Sava de Beatuna. And this is like the most lavish, I don't know what you want to call it, domain on earth. That area has been declared as no flyover area. It is protected by anti-aircraft missiles, and there are guards it's guarded from the water. It's bordering on the Black Sea. You're not allowed to get close to it. So the opposition, that goes against Putin. What they did was they quote unquote swarmed that particular palace with drones, and they took pictures of everything, and they're published. You understand that? For what? What on earth are you going to do with $200 billion, especially when you're president of a country and you can't show anyone? The oligarch at least can show off. He can't even show it off because he's not supposed to. He's the president. It's like that. There is a person that has a lust for money will never ever be satiated, cannot be satiated. The illusion, the pervasive illusion of Tavis money is a kesef yaneh sakol. Money will solve all the problems. If only you say to somebody, that he'll have a lot of money, when you ask people, what do you want? He wants to win the lottery. What are you going to do when you're in the lottery? Well, all my problems will be taken care of. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy a house for myself, and for each of my children I'll buy a house, and whatever it is, and it's just go. And the emes is that it's a total lie. Money doesn't lead to anything. Money is a false idol. And false idols, the Zohar says, El Acher, a foreign idol, is storis. It becomes, it is castrated. Velo avid peri. It does not bring forth fruits. It does not propagate. It cannot propagate per definition. Money is a eunuch. There's no birth for money. And the thing that leads to Taivas moment is the Taiva for women. Only somebody who is able to control his Taiva for women, his Shomer Bris, can control his Taivas moment. We see it from Yosef. Yosef Atzadik would not look where he's not supposed to look. So Yaakov Avinu gives a bracha to all the Shvatim, to each Shevet. Yaakov Avinu, he starts the bracha with the private name of the Shevet. Reuven, B'choiri, your firstborn. Yehuda, Tayeducha Achecha, your brothers will acquiesce to you, and so on and so on, until he gets to Yosef. He doesn't say Yosef, he says Ben Peres Yosef. He doesn't start with Yosef Ben Peres. It's a Ben Peres Yosef, a progeny of Peres Yosef. First of all, he's a Ben. He's a progeny. He symbolizes continuation, which both Taivas Niyuf and Taivas Momen preclude per definition. All the people who, wish to go after their hearts, and the Taiva for women, they do whatever they do with explicit intent of this not having consequences. They don't want any children to be born of that. They want it to be an act, a fruitless act, to begin with. That's the reason why Taivas Nashim, the lust for women, leads to the bigger lust of money. Yosef, what did he control? Yosef controlled his ayn, his eye. Ayn, that's the opening, that allows a person to look outside. You look outside, well, ayn ro'ah, the ayn sees, v'alev chomet, and the heart covets. The minute you allow the eye to see whatever it wishes, it creates the coveting in the heart. You see Forbes magazine. You see the lifestyle of the rich and famous. You see, your neighbor having this or this having that. And everybody becomes bottled to somebody who has a lot of money. And whenever it is that you talk about them, he says, he said that rich person, he's my friend. And when people ask you, can you give me his phone number? No, 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 no. No, I can't. In other words, I also want to guard my access to that rich person. I'm on a first name basis with him. If I give it to you, A, I won't be exclusive, and B, maybe he'll find out, he'll be upset, and my access to his wealth, or rather my access to him, will be blocked. Because the truth is, you never have access to his wealth. Because the way he got his wealth is because either he was born with that and he's used to that, or, an insatiable Tavis moment, which he got with his breast milk. People become rich by having the ability to deny access to their money, whether that access is warranted or unwarranted. They have absolutely no problem with the fact that they have and you don't. Regular people, we are all flushed with greed. Some more, some less. But people that are the greed by them is theoretical. It's more theoretical than the Melchizedek. How can you tell? Because they're not rich. Which means that they don't really want money. What they want, more than anything, they want their problems to be solved. So there is, so they figure, money will answer that. That is the lie of Tavis Mohan. Kesef Yanet HaKol, the money will answer all the needs. No problem. This kind of worshipping that people do towards people with money. And people with money, by and large, are some of the most miserable people on earth. And there's nobody they can talk to. Because they're supposed to be the luckiest people alive. They have everything because they have money. And the truth is they have nothing. Mar benechasim, mar bedaiga. The more possessions you have, the more worries you have. I was given my mother, Ala Shalom, many years ago. Was it from her or did something I bought from her? I don't remember. Anyhow, those of us who remember the days of old where people actually used to write. Remember? Paper, pen? Remember that? The old days, Anyhow, so I think my mother gave me, or I bought for myself, a pen, a very expensive pen. It's called Mont Blanc. It's a German, very, very expensive German pen. It was like, I don't know, like $80 or $100 when you buy it, on a great discount. And it's a great writing instrument and everything else, whatever it is. And I was a man in my 30s, used to wear it, and the way I wear a pen, you see the pen in my pocket. I used to wear a pen in my pocket, so whenever it is I need to write something, I take it out and I write my. I stopped using it. I don't wear it anymore. I have it, but I don't wear it anymore. Do you know why? Because whenever I'm in shul or whatever it is, and somebody asks me, "Can I borrow your pen?" I couldn't give him the pen. What if he won't give it back? As long as he's using the pen, I'm in panic. He's in pen, I'm in panic. What do they need this for? I have to say, no, I don't have a pen, but I do have a pen. So I said, I can't look like this. Okay, so I took the pen and I put it in the drawer. Now I have a pen, that is a disposable pen. So I can do chesed. Somebody needs a pen. Here, you have a pen. You can write a phone number and something. Ma benechos ma bedago. The depth of the barrenness of Tavis Mammon. We need to talk about it a little bit more, to get deeper into and understanding what is the difference between this and Orapanim. But this, B'ezrat Hashem, we will need to do next time, B'ezrat Hashem, next Wednesday. So I want to thank everybody for being with us today as we embark on a new adventure of Torah Chav Gimel.